Hi and welcome to my review of the MI15 UMPC. Now, just one word in advance, I am not a professional computer reviewer, I don't get paid for this. The reason why I'm reviewing this particular model is that I think it's quite a nice UMPC, but there's basically no info out there on the internet at all. So if you're considering getting one of those, I hope that this review might help you out a bit. Now, there's a whole number of manufacturers who make very similar UMPCs. You can see this one is an unbranded one, it's an OEM machine, but there are at least 4 or 5 different brands you can get for this, and they are all very similar, so I'm not sure if they're just copying each other or if they're licensed products or whatever, but they're all similar in specs, same case, same everything, so I suppose they are the same machines. Now, specs wise, this machine has a Intel Atom Z515 processor at 1.2 GHz, 1 GB of RAM and a 16 GB SSD, and it's got this really nice 5-inch WSVGA display, which is quite rare in this size because usually you have 800 by 480, but this is 1024 by 600, which is really high resolution for such a small screen. Let's have a look around the machine itself. As you may have seen already, it's got this really nice slide and tilt screen. So, like this, you can use it as a tablet PC basically. And if you need to get to the keyboard, you can slide the screen up and also tilt it up if you want to. Use it more like a laptop or something like this. On the front there are a couple of buttons. There is display brightness up and down. And there is an optical sensor which allows you to control the mouse cursor. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. And the corresponding mouse buttons here and there. Left click and right click. There's also this navigation across here, which I thought would act as scroll wheels, left, right, up, down. But it's actually just the cursor keys from here mapped over there again. There's also a webcam in here, which I didn't notice first as well, but if you look very carefully, the case is slightly angled here, and the webcam is plain with that front. So the webcam actually points slightly sideways, if you can see it on the camera. And I mean, it's not that bad, or you don't really notice that much, but it's just funny that it didn't make the webcam point straight forward. There are no connectors on either side, left or right of the machine. On the front you've got a micro SD card slot, and on the back you've got a couple of connectors. You've got a headphone jack, which is actually quite good quality. The audio chip in there is a Realtek HD audio, and it has some good headphones on there, and the quality is really nice. You've got a USB host connector. There's a DC-in from the charger. There's also a mini USB, which is quite strange because it comes with a lead that allows you to connect a USB device to there. So that's not a device connector, but a host connector in some funny shape. There's the reset button, the power button, and very nice, a display out connector. The computer comes with 2 leads, one from this connected to VGA and one from this connected to component video. So you can hook up your video projector or your TV straight to that without buying any extra cables or adapters, which is really helpful if you have to go to presentations or something similar. And over here, let's see if I can get it out, is the stylus for the touchscreen. Is quite nice to use, it's quite good quality I guess, and the touchscreen is quite nice to use with the stylus. Now, performance wise, it's not the fastest machine you can get, obviously. It's only a 1.2 GB processor and 1 GB of RAM, so it isn't going to break any speed records there. The SSD itself isn't too fast either. You get 50 megs per second reading and 35 megs per second writing, which compared to a modern SSD is quite slow, but then again it's an UMPC, so you probably don't even need performance. However, it's quite decent. You can even play HD videos on there, downscaled obviously, so let me just show you that. So if you look closely to the video, once the menu is gone, there are no frame skips or anything, it's just 1080p video downscaled to the screen perfectly fine. So it's a good mobile media player as well, I guess, so no complaints there. Now, the reason why I would get an UMPC over, say, a smartphone or a tablet is because you want to run your native Windows applications. And what I've got here, for example, just to show it off, is I've got my Spice Simulator, which allows me to do circuit simulation, and you couldn't do that at all on a smartphone or a tablet. So that just works like it would on my desktop. If I can click it. And yeah, that's quite nice because I can do whatever I would do on my big laptop, but without carrying 2 kilos around. And it's really nice to be able to run your applications that you would have on your desktop normally in a much smaller form factor. Now, obviously, you wouldn't want to work like this 8 hours a day, but it's more than adequate when you're waiting for a bus or a train or on the flight. So it's quite nice, I think. In terms of wireless connectivity, the computer comes with a Wi-Fi card, a 3G modem, Bluetooth and GPS. And let's just go through all of that. So on the back I've got my laptop, which has an Intel 4965 Wi-Fi card, and on the front is the MI15 UMPC. And I'm just listing all the access points I can see here. The first one is mine, and there are 4 other networks which I got intermittent connection to. The signal strength for mine is -50 on the laptop, and around -70-ish on the UMPC. Now, obviously those values aren't really comparable, but just the fact that I don't see those other 4 networks that I have here on there is a bit of an indicator that the Wi-Fi in here might not be as good as the Intel one and the big one. So whether the Marvel card in here is worse than the Intel card in there, or will they just screwed up the antenna a bit, I don't know, it doesn't really matter, but the Wi-Fi in here is a tad weaker than on the big Intel machine. The 3G modem is a Huawei model. It is a quad-band GSM and a tri-band UMTS model, so it should work pretty much all over the world actually. And it comes with this quite nice Huawei software which allows you to make phone calls from the computer and send and receive text messages, which, yeah, it's a quite nice gadget I think, but where you're going to use it, I don't know. But as you can see here, you can get to your texts and send and receive those, so if you have to, go for it. I mean, it's not really a smartphone replacement, but you know, it's nice to have that on there. Let's close that. Now, just to show you the GPS, how it works is there is an internal serial port to which the GPS receiver is connected, and it basically just spits out those NMEA sentences all the time, and you can use any GPS program you like to receive that and show your position or whatever you want to do. Now, the funny thing is that you can't turn the GPS receiver off actually, so it's running all the time, which I suppose is okay because it probably doesn't take that much power. But if you go through math and you say, okay, 50 milliwatts for the receiver and 4 hours of battery life with the battery capacity, it still comes down to about 5 minutes difference in terms of battery life if you could turn the receiver off. So, you know, they might as well have had a switch there, but I guess it's okay. Things that you can turn on and off is, of course, the Wi-Fi and 3G, which have control keys on here and there, on and off. And there's also a keyboard backlight, which maybe you can see it on the camera if I turn like this. The keys are actually backlit, so this is really nice, I think. As is normal for UMPCs, some of the control keys are actually mapped with the function keys, so F1 through F10 are on the number keys. There is no F11 and F12. Page up, page down, home and insert is all accessible via the function keys as well. And there is display brightness up, down, volume up, down as well, available through the function keys. Now, for the keyboard itself, if you use the device like this, sort of in a handheld fashion, it's really nice to thumb there. Size is quite good, the buttons are quite decently sized. However, if the device is on the desk like this and you try and touch type or pack on there, it's really narrow to get there with both hands, so you might try and use one hand or something else, so you're not going to win any typing speed records on there. However, they were quite nice and actually put the indicator bumps, I'm not sure you can see them, on the F and J keys, which you would use to get your rest position for touch typing, but as I said, you're not going to touch type on that. But anyway, the keyboard itself is okay, I guess. The keys separation isn't really good, so, you know, they have no recesses or humps or anything on them, so you don't really see whether you're on one key or 2 keys, so there could be a bit better tactile feedback. The keys themselves have quite a nice way. They feel good, so not really cheap or anything. But as I said, it doesn't really compare to any decently sized keyboard, so bear that in mind if you get that thing. Now the display itself is really nice. Right now I'm running at about half brightness just for the camera, so let me turn it up just to show you. So the colors are really crisp and the resolution is just gorgeous on this small screen. The viewing angle horizontally is quite good. I mean, you can't see it on the camera, but you can still see everything is nice with no false colors or anything. Vertically it's a bit worse because you start getting false colors quite early, like about here. Yeah, you can see it, I guess. Which isn't that great, but you have the tilting display, so you can adjust it to give you a good viewing angle, and it shouldn't be a big problem, I guess. Now, the touchscreen on this machine is a resistive touchscreen, which means that you sort of have to use your fingernails or the stylus here. It doesn't really work with full-on fingers like you know on your iPad or iPhone. It also doesn't support multi-touch, so you're limited to single clicks or drags or whatever. So I think it's alright, and if you go in an actual program like this, for example, that's not even optimized for touch anyway, so you really want a pointy stylus here to go through the menus or whatever else you have, because you couldn't use your finger to select one of those menu entries because it's just too thick. So I think it's okay for an UMPC. I don't mind the touchscreen here, so I think it's okay. Here's one funny thing I noticed. If you're using a computer like this with the stylus in your right hand, your right hand may actually actuate the optical sensor here and make the cursor move around, which may be a bit irritating if you're pointing and clicking with the stylus and the cursor is whizzing around underneath. I mean, you don't click anything unless you press those buttons, so it doesn't really matter, but it's just a bit irritating when the cursor is whizzing around. In terms of battery life, I've managed to get 4 hours roughly, with the display maximum brightness and the Wi-Fi on, and just doing normal stuff like watching YouTube videos or some office work, so fairly balanced. You might be able to get more out of it if you turn the display down, the Wi-Fi off, and do less CPU intensive tasks, but then again, it's not that realistic anymore. So I think 4 hours is a good indicator. It's not too great, it's not too bad, fairly standard I guess, so no complaints there. So, what's the verdict on the MI15 UMPC? Well, it's got a few quirks, like for example the keyboard that's not really good for lots of typing, or the slightly angled webcam. But apart from that, it's a really nice device. The display is superb, the performance is adequate, and well, there aren't too many other UMPCs around anyway, so for me personally, way to go.